Also, the integrity of the call is really important. And so that's why if somebody is trying to join, if it's not clear who you are, we will not necessarily admit you until we know who you are, just because of the shenanigans that can happen in these spaces. So good afternoon. My name is Erin Barger. It's my honor to serve as the project manager for Envision Athens, which is the 20-year plan for community and economic development for Athens, Clarke County. This meeting is the work group for the agriculture domain. This group is called Abundance Athens, and we have been meeting for several months on a regular basis to, in the very beginning, establish a consistent and sustainable venue for fresh food in Athens East Side. So according to Athens Wellbeing Project data and the data that helps form the action agenda for Envision, we realized that there were great disparities related to fresh food access in the east side of town. As the pandemic hit our community last year, we realized that the scope and focus for this group really needed to laser in on access to food for all people in Clarke County who are underserved and who are experiencing increased food insecurity because of COVID. So we shifted focus to make it a bit broader in scope several months ago and have kept that focus. And it's been a pleasure to work with and support the collaborative efforts of Athens Eats Together and other programs that have worked to ensure that our neighbors do not go hungry during the pandemic. So we have a lot to discuss, but for the sake of knowing who's at the table, I'm going to walk us through very quick introductions. So John, let's start with you. If you could say name and affiliation.
Hey everybody, John Morris, project coordinator at Envision Athens.
Abhishek.
I'm Abhishek. I'm fellow at Envision Athens.
Amanda Bolin.
Hi everyone, I'm Amanda. I'm the communications fellow at Envision.
Patrick Howard. He's on mute, so I can introduce him if he can't unmute. Patrick Howard is our neighborhood leader. Oh, there he is.
Here we go. I'm Patrick Howard, neighborhood leader for the Family Connections, Communities, and Schools over the Fowler Zone.
Thanks for your work, Patrick. Mr. Richard Boone.
I'm Richard Boone, and I'm with the Food Bank of Northeast Georgia.
Jen Thompson.
Hi, I'm Jen Thompson. I'm at UGA. I'm the director of the Sustainable Food Systems Initiative. And I'm going to ask my class who's joining us today to just wave and let you know who they are. And my class is a graduate level sustainable food systems course called Food Systems Sustainability, Security, and Resilience. And we're just here today to listen in and learn a little bit about the local food system and needs. Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome. Thanks, Jen. Josh Podvin.
Josh Podvin, Office of Service Learning at UGA.
Leslie.
Leslie Trier, I'm with Athens Community Council on Aging.
Tim Johnson.
Tim Johnson, Executive Director, Family Connection, Communities and Schools of Athens.
Eve Anthony.
All right, got stuck there. Hi, I'm Eve Anthony. I'm the president and CEO of the Athens Community Council on Aging.
Andy.
Andy Bishalia from Campus Kitchen with the Office of Service Learning at UGA.
Mary Barrett.
Hey, I'm Mary Barrett Yancey. I'm the County Director for Clarke and Oconee County DFACS offices.
Dr. Shannon, Jerry Shannon.
Jerry Shannon, UGA, Geography and Housing.
And tenured.
Jenny Galucci.
Hey, Jenny with Concrete Jungle.
Hey, Jenny. Daniel Epting.
Daniel Epting with Epting Events and Family Connection board member.
Laura Nay.
Hey, Laura Nay with the Clarke County Extension Office and working closely with the Marigold Market Initiative.
Hilda Kurtz. Oh, you're muted, Dr. Kurtz.
Sorry, Hilda Kurtz with the Department of Geography at UGA.
Good to see you. Crystal Coburn.
Hi, Crystal Coburn with the Inclusion Office of ACC Gov.
Good to see you, Crystal.
You too.
And I think maybe last, certainly not least, Mayor Dodd.
Hi, Dodd Farrell, Mayor of City of Winterville, and I do whatever Laura, Sherry, and Shawana tell me to do.
As you should. Did we miss anyone that is not one of Jen's students who joined us today for the first time? Just want to be sure everyone had the opportunity.
I'm
Ellie?
Ellie Adams, and I'm with the Athens Land Trust and the West Broad Farmers Market.
Great, thank you. So glad you could join us today. Is this your first meeting with us?
It is my first meeting with y'all. So I was going to take over Dawn's spot, but I was not available for the January meeting. So Cameron was here, but I should be with y'all moving forward. So
great. So glad you're with us. Welcome. So let me go ahead and rather than share screen, just share the agenda in the chat box so we can kind of stay tuned in to one another. So you can see the agenda in the chat box. So I think there are a lot of important things to discuss today and some really exciting opportunities. What I think is undoubtedly most pressing is just an update on food access. Specifically, we have benefited from utilizing this space to support some of the planning and coordination of the Athens Eats Together program. And many of the people responsible for creating that and implementing that program are on the call today and have done a lot of heavy lifting. So first, just let me thank you for all of the intense and immense amount of work that you've invested over the last few months, ensuring that our neighbors have food. Would love to begin, if we could, just starting there with kind of an overview of where that program has been, and as it sunsets this month, kind of open the floor to other questions and needs. So Eve, are you comfortable starting?
Sure, absolutely. So as you mentioned, Athens Eats Together, the program has sunsetted. Technically, the contract ended January 31st. We, based on our supply of food, frozen food with Epting Frozen and our supply, we are able to extend it to this Friday. So although we have very limited distributions going on, we are distributing food via delivery, and we have 2 school distributions, and then we will be distributing food from the ACCA campus tomorrow. And that will be the last distribution, public distribution at ACCA. So we're incredibly proud and grateful of the Athens Eats Together project and what we've accomplished in a short time. Before I go into too many details, I think this is just a really good opportunity to the conversation that I've had over the last couple of weeks and that I was able to share with the mayor on Friday is how grateful I am that our community, our local government, chose to invest in food access at this level. It's really pretty unheard of for a local county government to do this. And not only did they invest the dollars, but they also invested the time, talent to support the program. Crystal is on the call and she's absolutely been a huge part of that. Stephen Bailey, we've worked very closely with, and Haley as well. So very thankful for the leadership in Athens Clarke County for the work that was done on this project. Also very thankful for ACCA's partners, the Food Bank of Northeast Georgia. Without them, we would have never been able to have the ongoing supply of affordable food access to provide as part of this. They kept up with the demand, did an excellent job. Athens Farmers Market provided, along with Collective Harvest, the produce that we distributed. Also the vouchers for the farmers market that turned out to be one of the most popular parts of Athens Eats Together. Also a huge thank you to Tim and the neighborhood leaders They were critical in making sure that everyone in the community knew about Athens Eats Together, but then also delivering food to those who couldn't get to the distributions. And then, of course, Mr. Worldwide, my buddy Daniel Epting. There's no way we could have done Athens Eats Together without Epting and his team. So we'll always be grateful for that friendship and partnership with those guys. But like I said, we're proud of all that we've accomplished. We served towards the end, when we were at our peak, we were serving 2,600 people a week through school distributions, deliveries, and folks coming to just, pick up food from us. We served almost 7,400 people in just a little over 3 months. That includes enrolling to those folks, collecting data on those folks, and then actually providing service to them. In total, it was about 230,000 meals. So it's truly, you think about it, on paper and how quick it went together. It just blows my mind. I think what we hope to do is, I'm really thrilled with the data that we have from this project. One of the things that was surprising, even though our agency has done Meals on Wheels since the early 70s, it's interesting to know that 51% of the people enrolled in Athens Eats received their food delivered to their home. So that means 51% of the folks that we served did not have access to food distribution sites. And I think as we continue to have conversations, that's an important piece of data to recognize. But then we also were pleased that we received almost 400 responses to our enrollee surveys. So we have a lot of data to dig through there. And our hope is during our next meeting, this meeting, is that we'll have kind of compiled some of that information and we can present to you all. So you can, I'm hoping as a community, we'll see what's there and kind of come up with some interventions to fill the gaps. The what's next for Athens Eats, as a service provider, it doesn't sit well that we know we were serving 2,600 people who are now no longer receiving food. But one of the other bright lights that came out of this project is Josh Podman, and he may talk a little bit about it, but the program they developed through the Office of Service Learning and their Give Pulse platform, which is a database of all the food distribution. So instead of trying to figure out on your own, if I need food today, how do I figure out how do I get that? You can go to the Give Pulse platform and it tells you via calendar where the next food distribution is and the eligibility for that. So Josh may want to touch on that as well. But again, we're wrapping up as of Friday, and thank everybody for the support. And any questions you may have, let me know.
Eve, thank you. Just to clarify one numbers question, I think you mentioned 2,600 per week and then more than 7,000 total people. So were there all in all about 7,000 plus unduplicated participants in the program?
Correct. There was, I believe the last number I just looked at, 7,404 unduplicated participants.
That's a really high, significant number in my mind, right? When you think about the overall population and the percentage of the overall population comprised by that is big. Eve, you mentioned this, and I would love to go next to Crystal Coburn. Crystal, you and Stephen did a lot of work throughout, and I think especially at the beginning and the development stages of this. So thank you for that, and just wanted you to add anything from your perspective about the program and what's next.
Well, it seems a little bit wrong for me to be here instead of Stephen, because he kind of flinched when I said this, but I consider him our resident expert. But I am very grateful as well for Stephen, for yourself, Erin, for convening this space. And Eve, thank you so much to you and to your team for your willingness to just sort of launch into the gap. It was a pretty wild ride on the front end, trying to think through how to do this in a collaborative way that came alongside our community. And you were right there. And I deeply appreciate it, along with a number of community partners who had us come on site to do tours and have conversations, and essentially were willing to give us a full education around our local food assistance landscape. And so we want you to know that we deeply value your time and your expertise. This is not something that we could have done without what you are doing day in and day out. And so we don't take that lightly. We are essentially from the government and we're the funders, and you are the boots on the ground and the human beings who are up close making it happen. And so, I am here as well to representing Stephen and myself and our local government to answer any questions you might have. But I certainly very much defer to Eve in terms of expertise on what things will look like moving forward. The only thoughts that came to mind as I was listening is I believe, Erin, we are planning to run the presentation both with the Abundance Athens group, but then also hopefully before Mayor and Commission. And Eve was kind enough to volunteer to do that. And we are really excited about that possibility to help to further inform our elected officials around this work. We've also been working closely with Josh Potvin and your team around food assistance mapping. That's something that we're very excited about as well, because one of the gaps that multiple participants on this call shared with us is that there's no centralized resource that we can go to, either for data purposes or just general mapping purposes, who's doing what where. And so that's a potential step towards filling that gap that we're excited about and grateful to be a part of. Those are the things that I can think of. If there's anything else that you have questions on, please don't hesitate to let me know.
Great. Why don't we go over next then to Josh, just to kind of, I think, make this a well-rounded update. Josh, your work has played a integral role in answering the question of what's next and where do people go. So would love for you to share kind of an update, and if you have any guidance for this group and where future gaps are likely to be.
Sure, I'd be happy to. And I did post a link to that page that we've created in the chat. I think this has been a long-standing conversation in our community that there's no central space to really know where distributions are happening. And so we were trying to take a hands-on approach, and we have folks that are calling agencies. It's slow and steady. I'm sure Eve and Leslie can tell you that there's a number of folks out there doing the difficult work of distributing food, and they have a lot on their plates. And so tracking them down and finding a time to chat with them and learn more about their distributions can be challenging. They're happening piecemeal all over the community. And so this is our initial effort to start to compile all of that information in one location on that page. I'll be sort of pulling together a more polished conversation about what's there. But what I'd say is that there's a calendar of upcoming distributions. You can switch the view and you can look and see that mapped out across the community as data points. And there are some resources on that page. We very much view this as a community effort. So if there are agencies that that are distributing food that you don't see on that list, or resources that aren't listed, the hope will be to make this a single location where folks that need to learn about a distribution can come, where providers can come and share information about their distributions, and where referral agencies can come to find an accurate list of distributions. So each month we'll be calling these agencies and reconfirming the details to make sure that the most accurate information that we can have is listed on that page.
So it sounds like we definitely have some rich content to anticipate for the next meeting. Eve and Crystal, I think you both mentioned having more, synthesized data to share then. And then Josh, would love, if you're comfortable then or at a future meeting, kind of walking us through a demo of that. I really appreciate your work there. And as much as I don't enjoy my next question, I think the most important question to ask right now is what concerns you about what is next and what might we do about that?
May I jump in here?
Yes, Tim.
So I just want to also add in addition to the appreciation that Eve expressed towards the unified government and all the partners, Eve and Leslie and your team, y'all were extraordinary. You went from, I think, 160 households a week that you were serving with Meals on Wheels to 2,600. I mean, you converted and created all the, well, you had systems, but you expanded those systems and just did an amazing job practically overnight and continued to throughout. And, you know, this community really owes you a great debt of gratitude for that. So thank you, as well as other partners. And I certainly appreciate the unified government providing funding for y'all to do that. And our neighborhood leaders appreciated your having central places for them to pick up the food, along with cotton press, other kinds of goods to take out to people who need them. I have to say I'm incredibly concerned that suddenly, you know, these, in our case, it's a couple of hundred households that neighborhood leaders are delivering to the household, plus the other, I think it's 1,300, you said 51% are receiving home delivery. And, you know, the challenge is that those are people who couldn't get to the sites, to any sites. And then I'm also concerned that all these wonderful people who are doing food pantries, food distributions, have been doing them all this time, and all of a sudden we're losing 2,600 people who are theoretically shifting onto all those, and half of whom can't get to them. And I don't know who's going to go pick up things from all these different sites and then deliver them. It just seems like not through any intention on anybody's part, but the rug's kind of been pulled out from under those households that are getting the food and having to figure out where they can get it and if they can get it, because I know one of the things that's already been mentioned is that we don't have the data about who is distributing how much, but nobody was distributing nearly as much as Athens each together as far as direct to consumers. And so I'm really, really concerned because we're still in the middle of this pandemic. Those folks who needed it before still need it next week. And, you know, our neighborhood leaders have been reaching out to the people they serve, and having to tell them the program's ending, we're going to try to find other sources, but it's just going to be a real, well, it's a challenge. It's not a challenge next month, it's a challenge next week. And I just don't think the capacity is there unless other funding is being provided to all those others. But they're also not, as far as I know, they're not home delivery for those who can't get out. And so I think this is something that needs to be acted on now or as soon as possible. And so I guess, Crystal, no, you know, I appreciate you and I appreciate the mayor and the commissioners and all the unified government's great response to the pandemic in all kinds of ways, including food distribution. But what can we do as far as this sudden interruption? I understand from talking to some people, and you can correct me if this is incorrect, that there's still money there that was originally allocated toward the program, but it hasn't all been spent. And so what's happening with that funding, and is there the possibility? And if anybody wonders, neighborhood leaders are not receiving funding through this. We're receiving lots and lots of food to get out to people through this. And the people who have been funded need that funding in order to continue, but obviously they can't continue without the funding. So I just said a whole lot, Crystal, but you asked if we had other questions and concerns. Is there any way that, you know, waiting until next month? Is there a way we can continue it until the mayor and commission has a chance to review the data that Eve is putting together, so we don't just stop and wait and say, oh yeah, we do need to feed these people?
Well, Tim, that's a really good question. One that as staff, we've been thinking about quite a bit and having a number of conversations with Eve about as we've navigated this process. The ultimate decisions regarding funding, because of our local government structure, are held by our commissioners. My understanding is that the original contract was about 2.3 million. I think our estimate was that by the end of January, we would have spent 1.2 to 1.5 or so million. Eve, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the proposal from ACCA for the 90-day extension of AET was about 700,000. And the balance of funds, it appears, might have been able to cover that amount. At this point, perhaps one of the strategies or ways to proceed to consider would be to be sure to reach out and to share these concerns with our elected officials. It feels like a very dissatisfactory response, but it's the best response that I can provide right at this moment.
I think actually it's a great response.
Yeah, Crystal, I would say the only reason that response is lacking is if the people on this call and our participation in it is lacking. So if we all consider that as residents of Clark County, we have the opportunity to communicate. And I know that that there is often the question when funding is requested, what data do we have to support that request? I think it's interesting that nothing has necessarily changed in the context beyond when Athens Eats Together was created, right? So if anything, people are experiencing more hardship than they were before. So I'm not certain why new or increased data is now being required to make a case when we're still in the middle of a pandemic. More people are sick than before. I do wonder, and I know Eve, you answered this question in a way. Are there any points of reflection from the data you have gathered that could be used to kind of help make the case for an extension? I don't mean that in a way to put you on the spot, but just since we're here together now, if you could equip us with any information that might be helpful.
I think, if looking at it within my organization, if it was my money and I was going to make a decision on whether or not to continue to invest in a program, I think a really easy way to do that, and one of the things that we internally did look at, is what do the week by week enrollment look like? Because we track total and duplicated, but then we also track the number of newly enrolled people each week. And we saw, and then we also looked at the number of people served per week. And some of the initial data is that most people served on Athens Eats have never received food assistance before. So there's no doubt it's responding to the COVID situation that's going on in our community. The second is that if we look at those numbers kind of over the time lapse of the program, there were increases in dips, increases around the holidays for sure, which we expect. And part of that was due to the change in the distribution schedules. We saw a really quick and sharp decline when the second round of stimulus checks came from the federal government. And then since then, we saw the opposite. And so we saw an increase. It wasn't necessarily the weekly enrollment, although that stayed pretty steady, but definitely the increase of people who enrolled on the program and then continued to need the service and come to either a drive-through distribution or receive delivery week by week. That number continued to grow. And I would need to go back and look, but I know within those last 3 weeks, of service, we hit record numbers at the end of the project. So again, if I was making the decision based on my organization, those are some of the data points that I would look at, that the demand was still there. People were still utilizing the service, and that the people who are using the service are utilizing it because of COVID. And because of that, COVID hasn't gone away. And so I could assume that the need is still there.
Thank you, Eve. Yeah, that is exactly what I was kind of looking for. And I knew you would have something really relevant to share. To answer Jen's question, I believe the extension was denied. Is that correct, even Crystal? Oh, sorry. Yep. Yeah, that's my understanding too, Crystal. But yes, definitely we'll give you the opportunity to verify that.
My understanding was that it was never actually voted on by the commission, that the commission was presented with the four other contract extensions, but not this one. So it wasn't voted yay or nay.
Okay.
Let me do some research on that, please, and get back to everyone.
Sure.
Thank you.
I think the takeaway, whether it was or was not, is that we have an opportunity. And for those of you on the call who have, you're a Clark County resident, I just dropped the link to the commissioners in town. So feel free to be an engaged citizen in that regard.
Hey, I got another data point. So in the month of January, the Athens Eats Together created, give or take, 2,600 hours of staff for my team. So if you break that by 4.5 weeks in a month, and you break that by 40-hour weeks, that equates to roughly 14 jobs. And so when we think of, the money going towards a program, we think of the food going out, which is one thing, but there's a lot of energy going in that's also contributes to our community. And I think the farmers market's on here as well, but the boxes that we picked up, that got delivered from the farmers, that's job creation. And so let's not just think about the outputs, but the effort of the inputs that money is helping to keep the economy going, I think is important for commissioners and anybody concerned with the overall, the holistic view of what each of those dollars goes towards is bigger than just the food that goes out, from food bank to council on aging to vendors like Epting Events and the farmers market. So those are important points too.
Thanks, Daniel. Mr. Boone, as the call was beginning, I don't think everyone had the benefit of hearing what you had to share. And many of you who are new to the call may not know, Mr. Boone has a historic presence and a really active one in addressing food insecurity. He's been a longtime food bank board member, supporter, just about everything you can think of. He has been engaged to address this in the community. So I'd love to just pause and hear from you, Mr. Boone, about how you think things are going, what concerns or questions you might have as we move forward.
Well, the first thing I'll say is I don't see the demand going down. Unfortunately, right now, we do have food at the food bank. Most of it is going out through mobile pantries. We still have shoppers that comes in and shops here on a regular basis. We schedule them in because of the pandemic. We can only have 2 on the floor, and there's a bunch, everyone has to wear a mask and everything. But like I say, most of it is going out through mobile pantries between this one and for the people who don't understand, my name is Richard Boone. I was one of the original founders of the food bank 28 years ago. We also have a branch in Clayton that we ship product out of also, but it's a covered bridge shopping center. So most of ours that goes out is food that has to be prepared, it's not already prepared. I'll leave that up to Daniel and his family. They do a good job of that. But as I can see going right now, going forward, I'm going to be talking to, I think, Jody Heiss tomorrow, and I'm going to be talking to some other to make sure that we keep the USDA food coming in, because USDA is a large part of the food that we ship out of the food banks across the country. Fortunately, we have had some situations where we got some support that we didn't know was coming, like from Amazon, some other people that are just helping us really do a good job of distributing food. I know we've been a part of Eve's organization, that organization forever. So what we do is now we're also doing some other things. We're packing what we call emergency boxes. If someone needs food, they can come by and we have a box already packed. We also had 3 kids from UGA that had an apartment and just didn't have any food. They came by and we could put together boxes for them. We're fixing to start working with Lydia's Place, which I've also been involved with since the inception of it, to start shipping food through Lydia's Place also. And so I guess that kind of sums it up. If someone is out there in need of a food, most of it we have are agencies that we have to have agencies because of certain things that are done through Feeding America that you have to have, especially for USDA. There's a lot of paperwork you have to do to make sure you comply with all their rules and regulations, but whatever it takes to distribute food, we're certainly going to do it.
Thank you,
Any
Mr.
questions?
Thanks so much.
Surely.
And I don't want to end that portion of the conversation, too hastily. We do have a couple of other things on the agenda to discuss and some opportunities that I want to be sure we have the opportunity, the chance to support. And I will say especially because we have so many people who are new to the call, it is not super typical. Actually, I don't think it's ever occurred in a call like this where we specifically talk about a funding need and invite, action and follow up and civic engagement. So I think it bears taking just a moment and pausing to say that this is where conversations like this can get a little bit tricky, because they can come across as being maybe overly political. But I was just reminded recently that the only reason to not make things political is if you are super comfortable with how things are. And so I think in this particular situation, we just need to acknowledge that many of our neighbors will be lacking opportunity very soon. And so, I think it's my job to help us engage. So next, moving on to the Marigold Market, some great news from last year. We've talked about all the heavy hitters on the call who seem to be able to make things happen, overcoming all sorts of barriers. And so Council on Aging, Food Bank, neighborhood leaders are some of those. We also have that in our friends Laura Ney and Mayor Dodd out of Winterville, who somehow moved forward with the plan to create and implement a new fresh food market in Winterville known as the Marigold Market. So would love to invite you guys, Laura and Dodd, to share an update with us and also talk about what's next and how we can support you in your next steps.
Hey, Aaron and everybody. So I think because Dodd's traveling, he's with us, but I think I'm going to take the lead. And Sherry wanted to be here, but is out of state at another meeting right now. So Sherry Anderson is our Marigold Market manager, who's sort of the third major wheel, I guess, in this initiative. But some of the things, I guess I'll start with sharing are some of our great strides forward just recently that are exciting and helping with the momentum. One that comes to mind is we've been meeting for the last month with our Marigold Market board, our new board, which is comprised of a variation of our vendors who have either been vendors or applying to be vendors, and just community members, largely from the Winterville, East Athens area. And it's really been fantastic. I mean, we've moved forward with such strides just in the last month. It's amazing what happens when you get a good board behind you. They've got some great professional skills that they're bringing to the table. And so, yeah, we've definitely made some leaps since then, and that's been awesome. Some physical steps forward that are also nice to see, like actual have something in front of you, is we are shortly moving forward with converting, if y'all are familiar with the barbecue hut at Pittard Park, kind of right there in the middle of Winterville on that square. That's going to be converted into an official Marigold Market sort of headquarters, and that's going to be a combination of, it's going to be all the barbecue part taken out and turned into a combination of, the sinks are going to be, you know, fixed up, hot water, power. It's a sort of an office space, but also potential storage of equipment to help vendors. And then in addition, on the outside that's not closed in right now, that's going to be a cold storage area that's specifically not for the kitchen part of it, but specifically to help with some of our initiatives with the market, which involves some of the outside of the box thinkings for ways that we can do like shared cost food boxes, but that's going to require people, the farmers, to have a greater window of being able to drop off and be able to keep that stuff. Doing some of the excess food options that our vendors are involved with in terms of either selling back at low cost or donating some food that we can then repurpose. A lot of our, you know, plans for our little mini East Athens food system really require that space. So we're excited that we're going to have a small walk-in area available to us soon, like within, hopefully ready for this market season. We are working with a capstone. I don't think we have these people on the call, but we're working with a sustainability certificate program with UGA, a capstone class, which we just got rolling with them and have met with them several times, and the group's fantastic. And they're going to be helping us with a lot of things, from marketing to volunteer coordinating to creating media for some of our kids' educational materials, and creating a portfolio for us for moving forward with marketing. So a lot of great collaborations that are helping us really see the future of the market coming up. We're launching our vendor application tomorrow. So that's been in the works. That's part of, you know, going through we had a subcommittee to make sure that we had everything on there. It's got a survey on the application that will help inform some of our choices about these alternative food box options and how that's going to work. So that's going out tomorrow. That's a big deal for us, really. And in terms of the community kitchen, I don't want to give a solid update. I'll let Dodd do the specifics maybe at the next meeting too, but I will say that we spent, and Dodd and Daniel Epping, who's on the call, and Sherry and Samantha Eberhard, who's I don't think here today, but who we met through Envision, have done just tons of research in looking at all the different options for the commercial kitchen path to move forward. And so we have decided sort of on our next steps. And so we're going to have a short-term option and a medium long-term option is how we decided to move forward. But I think, you know, that is a reality now. And thanks a lot to Sherry and Daniel and Dodd and Sam for putting in a lot of thought to what would make the most sense for that. I think that's most of the updates. Some of the next big steps are going to be, you know, we're going to be applying for 3 major grants, but those don't come up till all of those are about May, June. So that's tough to be waiting until May or June to apply for major funding. We do have the ability to accept SNAP money benefits payment, which is really good. I mean, we knew we were going to do that, but that's nice to have that under our belts. And so I look forward to the next item on the agenda, Aaron, because we have had conversations. It was a while ago now, but I think that is going to be a pretty big impact for our market, is just because if we have a consolidated effort behind, I don't know exactly what the conversation is going to look like, but between the different markets and different avenues that folks can go and get SNAP or get SNAP doubling in the county, I mean, I think being able to really let people know, I'm sure everybody on this call, especially people who work with SNAP and that kind of thing, is one of the biggest issues. Is a lot of people just don't even know what's available, or they don't know how to enroll, or they just, I mean, we all need really stuff kind of shoved. I mean, all of us really need stuff. Like we have so much else going on in our lives. So I think help getting people enrolled in those things and finding out about those things will be huge, because with all the other things that we need to focus on in terms of getting the word out about this new market, that's going to be, you know, hard for us to do on our own. So.
Laura, that is a perfect segue to the next agenda item. Before we go there, just a couple of things. if you wouldn't mind to send the vendor application, if it would be helpful to you for that to go out to all of the Abundance Athens partners, we would love to share that and could even share it on our social media.
That'd be amazing. And that was something else I had kind of written down. I think anything that helps us sort of, and I think, I'm sure, I've spoken with Ellie before, and I don't know if we have any Athens farmers markets people on here, but anything to kind of promote all the markets together and just let more people know about what's available. I think especially now, and I'm a little concerned, about what COVID's going to look like in May. And we have a lot of hopes for distribution and our fresh food affordability. But a lot of it involves interaction with the community. So thinking through how are we going to still achieve those goals when you don't have that interaction. And so I think we're going to have to think through a lot of that. But once we decide what that's going to look like, if we do these drive-up boxes or whatever, I think it's important to the markets that people know that they can do those things and have those options. So
Laura, have you all determined the dates for this season of Marigold Market?
Yeah, it's going to be more, we have determined it. I think it's the first weekend in May through the second weekend in December. Don't quote me on it. But I'm pretty sure it's what we're looking at.
I think in the area of food access, I don't think there's any doubt that a rising tide lifts all boats because everyone eats, everyone needs food. And so I think this is a perfect area for collaboration. We don't have anyone from Athens Farmers Market on the call today. However, Ellie has joined us from Athens Land Trust, and I think will be our ongoing, the face of ALT. So Ellie, I know we're starting to run out of time, but I do want to just be sure you're included. If you have any updates about West Broad and anything we can do to support you, would also love to invite you there.
Yeah, so thank you so much. And I'm excited to hear about all the Marigold Market stuff. That sounds phenomenal. I think that's so exciting. And I totally agree. I mean, the more we can get people out to any and every market, the better. So the West Broad Farmers Market is open. We opened the third weekend in January. We will be open all year in our online format and are planning to have an in-person market, hopefully opening, May, June. We have not committed to any dates yet. We're kind of sitting back and seeing where things are pandemic wise. But we will essentially at that point be operating 2 farmers markets a week with the online and the in-person operating together, hopefully. But I talk about sharing vendor applications. I would love to get, we're always recruiting for new vendors. We also are about to start our spring recruitment for our Grow Your Business classes, which usually are for, people who may have a small business idea or want to kind of learn more about getting involved in farmers market type businesses. So, if I could share that information, with you to kind of disseminate to anybody who might have people who could benefit from that. We're actually going to have an information session this coming Saturday after our market pickup. It's going to be at the West Broad Garden at 2:30. But I will make sure to share that information. But again, the biggest thing we're doing right now is trying to recruit, more vendors and make sure that and do a lot of advertising within the West Broad neighborhood. And we're also really trying to make a big push. We've got a couple of awesome new vendors from the Hispanic community. And we feel like that's just a place where we really would love to kind of further our reach and make sure they know they have the option to work with us and to shop with us. And obviously one thing that is just interesting to me really quick, sorry, I know we don't have a ton of time, is we renewed our partnership with, Wholesome Wave with Fresh for Less at the beginning of the year, obviously. And for the online market, we are actually allowed to accept SNAP dollars on a lot more products because technically nothing's being consumed at the market because it's all pickup. So it's not just fresh, it's not just produce and meat that, obviously the double dollars, but we actually are allowed to accept SNAP payment for essentially everything being sold through the online. It's kind of a loophole because obviously they don't allow SNAP payment for prepared food that people are eating at the market, but we don't have that right now. So that's something else we're trying to get out there. You know, people can come and buy prepared packaged food with their SNAP dollars at the pickup market. So that's, you know, kind of cool.
Ellie, that's great. Thank you so much. And please do, if you'll just in follow-up, share any information with John or I, and we can ensure that it's included with the notes that will go out to this group within the next 2 days.
Awesome.
Yeah,
thank you.
Great. And yeah, speaking of SNAP doubling, I also wanted to mention that to you, Laura. I know we've had some success in the past of connecting with Wholesome Wave to help fund the cost of SNAP doubling programs. I think we've discussed that before, but I think you can find some good conversation partners locally who have been down that path. And maybe I think you've probably done that.
Sherry was speaking with somebody that was helping her out, but also if we, you know, if that is not everything that Sherry needs, I don't know the details, but I'm sure I could reach out to Sarah at Athens Farmers Market too and see if she could give us some guidance.
Great. And so we know, and we didn't really have time to go through our plan of work today, but on page 14 of the work plan, we have a list of success measures, and one of those includes addressing the SNAP gap. And so when we look at the data for Clark County regarding the number of food insecure households and compare that number to those who are actually enrolled in SNAP and WIC, there's a $20.5 million gap between those two numbers. So in other words, there's $17.5 million on the table in SNAP benefits for which people are eligible but not enrolled. And then the number for WIC is 3 million to total $20.5 million. And so Terrace Thomas, fearless leader of the Neighborhood Leaders, has joined us today. It's always an honor to work with her. And she and I have been working behind the scenes to see if we can create some partnerships and opportunities to address the SNAP gap. So would love to defer to you, Terrace, on that.
Everybody, so happy to be here today. Forgive my tardiness, but thank you, Aaron, for assisting us with this SNAP area. Oh, something's going on with my phone. Sorry about that. Had a call come in, but anyway, our neighborhood leaders are very much involved with residents here in the Athens community, and there is absolutely, as Aaron just stated, the need for residents to enroll in SNAP. And so I'm really happy that our neighborhood leaders on a monthly basis engage our residents, be it in conversations, referring them to DFACS to go and apply, or many of our neighborhood leaders assist our residents with the application. And I will say that that application is pretty problematic for many of our residents, and you guys have obviously had conversation regarding that. So our neighborhood leaders are working there. I'm really happy to report that we're also working on a partnership whereby our neighborhood leaders could possibly serve as SNAP outreach partners. To do just that, assist our residents and educating them on the application, making that process a bit more seamless than it is, and really removing the stigma, because as Aaron just stated, the gap, many of our residents are not getting that benefit because of the stigma that surrounds it. So our neighborhood leaders will be working with our residents and are already working with residents to remove the stigma and to navigate that process of applying for the application. At present, our neighborhood leaders, our monthly reports show that our neighborhood leaders are assisting between 15 residents a month with the application. And I'm happy about that. And I know that there are a whole lot of other residents who need that assistance as well. And I also just wanted to state that we're also working with a student group, New Media Institute, UGA student group. They are developing a technology tool to assist with the application to help our residents navigate that process, make it a little bit easy, be it a tool that could be used through an iPad or smartphone or what have you. And so we're happy to have about 6 of our neighborhood leaders who are working very closely with the student group to assist in the development of that tool. So we've got much to share as the process moves forward, but I just wanted to thank you, Aaron, for allowing us this opportunity to share that the need is absolutely there. But we're also happy that our neighborhood leaders, who I call VIPs, they're very important people, are able to assist our residents in maintaining that space and collecting those resources because they're absolutely in need. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. And you can reach out to us if we can support that work in any way. Thank you so much to you and Tim and Patrick for your
Thank
work
you.
with this program.
Patrick's the VIP.
He does a very good job. I'll just say
Yes,
it while we're still recording. It should be said while we're still recording.
He sure does.
So guys, we have 3 minutes left. So congratulations to us. I propose our next meeting be either March 9th. I'm speaking slowly so you can take a second to refer to your calendars. Wondering if Tuesday, March 9th at 1 p.m. works for the group. That's a little bit sooner rather than later, but I think that makes sense given our current reality.
I think sooner is better. I'm not able to do it that day, but if Terrace can be on the call, she'll cover for us.
Okay.
And Patrick.
And we actually made a move to Tuesdays because that did include some who actually weren't able to join on Monday. So let's go with March 9th at 1 p.m. for the record, if that works for everybody.
Yes.
Hey, Aaron?
Yes, sir.
Can I ask Laura a question?
Yes.
Did I hear you say y'all considering opening a commercial kitchen?
Yes. Yeah, I think we visited, I was not able to go, but Sherry and one of our other collaborators was able to visit the food bank in Clayton, I think, and they got a lot out of that, looking and seeing how they're set up.
It's doing well.
Yeah.
We also took them, Mr. Ben. We took Sherry and Chris and Dodd up to the Wimberley Center up in Barrow County, and then also had them come and check out our kitchen over at Epting Events just to see different styles of kitchens and considerations of where the opportunity out there is to grow.
Yeah, we considered one here, but you got to understand, number one, we don't have the space here on the property. Number two, we don't have city sewer, so we can't do any preparation on food here. But we've been considering something like this for a while. There's a need for a commercial kitchen in Athens, Clarke County, that's for sure.
Well,
And you got the expert with the Daniel Epting. He knows how to prepare food. That's a fact.
That's right. And I feel like every time we have an abundance call, it just so happens to be the perfect weather for the Epting's dog lick soup. So just saying, if you want to drop a link to Good Story Food, literally every time we have this call, the weather is perfect soup weather. And I end up ordering your soup by the end of the day. So guys, it's 2 o'clock. I'll close us with the guiding proverb for Envision Athens. I think it is more true every day. And that is to go fast, go alone, to go far, go together. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.